What's going on, people? I'm back with another cricket update. This time it is all about the West Indies. Yes, we are hosting India in their tour of the Caribbean, starting with 3 T20s, moving on to 3 ODIs and finishing off with 2 test match. And obviously these test matches, we know, is now a part of the new World Test Championship. Each match is going to be worth 60 points, the series itself worth 120 points. And at the end of the 2-year period, whoever has the most points, the 2 teams who have the most points go into a one-off final test match to be crowned the world's best test team. But first and foremost, today we start with the T20s, and West Indies have some making up to do. Making up to do for the fans, the supporters, the country, and themselves to an extent. Now, we know we've got the T20 World Cup next year. I think it's in Australia, if I'm correct. So this will be part of the preparation going towards the, forming that squad, defining that squad. The T20 squad is interesting. I'll tell you why it's interesting, because there's players in the squad who I felt should have been in the World Cup, in the World Cup squad. The World Cup just gone. So for the first 2 T20s, and both of them which are in Florida, and then they moved directly even to the Caribbean, we've got John Campbell, who has been the test opener in the last year. I felt he should have been in the squad, especially with the injury doubts around a number of players. He should have been there as a backup, especially ahead of someone like Darren Bravo, who came into the World Cup with no form whatsoever. Then we have Evan Lewis, of course, he's the other opener. Shimron Hetmeyer, Nicholas Pooran, who had a very good World Cup. Kieron Pollard. Kieron Pollard is back. Now, we know when the new board came in, they went about trying to mend the bridges that had been burnt through the previous regime. The likes of Dwayne Bravo, Kieron Pollard, and others were reintegrated into the West Indies setup, told that basically they have another chance to play for their countries. Both of them were put on the reserve squad for the World Cup, but neither actually made it into the full squad. So Kieron Pollard's back. Robman Powell, he's in as well. Carlos Brathwaite, he will be he's the T20 captain, which for me makes no sense. He hit 4 sixes and he got given a captaincy. He shouldn't be there. There's a case that he maybe shouldn't even be in the team, but T20s are fair enough. You want to have, it's 4 overs that they bowl. If that, you want to have people that can bat down the order. He can hit big, he can score quick. But to make him captain cements his place in the side regardless. Then you've got Keemo Paul. Now, Keemo Paul, for me, 100% should have been in that World Cup squad. We went into the World Cup with injury issues around Andre Russell, which in the end proved critical because he dropped out of the squad. Shannon Gabriel, he had his. I think Kemar Roach in the first test, he was actually missing through injury. We know Gale hasn't been at his fittest in general. And you bring 2 spinners in Fabian Allen and Ashley Nurse, and you don't bring another all-rounder. Now, I know you've got Russell, Brathwaite and Holder, but Keemo Paul, for me, other than Russell and Holder, he's the best all-rounder. And out of the 4 of them, he's the best bowler by far. So, no, I won't say by far, because Holder has a good claim. He's done his bit. But for me, he's a more talented bowler and more potential than even Jason Holder. But he wasn't in the squad again. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but he's in the T20 squad. I hope that we see him in all forms of the game going forward as well. Another one, Sunil Narayan. Everyone was calling. It doesn't make sense. Like, you've got Ashley Nurse and Fabian Allen as the two spinners, neither of who actually spin the ball. Fabian Allen can bat, fair enough. What's Ashley Nurse's role? As I said at the time, it would have been better off having Ross and Chase. But to not have Sano Narayan. Now, there's talk that, of course, you know, he's got his issues with his action. There was talk about an injury before, I believe he was fit. I'm sure he was fit because he was playing just before the World Cup. But there was talk about whether he was fearful of being called for throwing, for chucking again. And obviously an ICC tournament, and if he was called for that, then it would set his career back even further. Now, obviously, these bilateral series are, you know, managed by the two sides. He plays in the IPO, he plays in the domestic leagues, so maybe he feels that when he's under the West Indies and India and BCCI jurisdiction, his action's fine. It's only when others outside of that, you might say, interfere, that it becomes an issue. So, I mean, I'm happy to see him in the side, but if he can't play in ICC tournaments because of his fear for his action, if that's the case, then he shouldn't be in the team. Because we need to be planning for the T20 World Cup next year, which of course is an ICC tournament. But happy to see him nonetheless. And of course, salute Sergeant Cottrell, Sheldon Cottrell in the side, 100%. Like, I gotta know, he was our best player for the World Cup. He was the only player I could say that from game 1 to game 9 gave his all at all times. Not saying he was the best in terms of he was always at his best, but he gave 100% all times. And if more of our players could do that, then we as a cricketing nation will be in a much, much better position. So Sheldon Cottrell, of course, is in that, and we hope to see that famous salute. Then we've got O'Shane Thomas. Now, he didn't have a good World Cup. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he had a very, very, very poor World Cup. A lot of the games he didn't bowl his 10 overs, and he's supposed to be one of the strike bowlers. He seems to lack confidence. He'll go in and, you know, bowl fast, and if he gets hit for a couple falls, he kind of goes into a shell. He doesn't know how to recover from it. The ball will start spraying the ball left, right, centre, dropping it short and getting pulled and hooked. Now, he made his name in T20s. We'll see, it's only 4 overs. But he's got some work to do for me. He's really got, obviously they trust in him. The reason why they picked him ahead of someone like Alzari Joseph and even Kimo Paul. But he's got a lot of work to do to convince me. It's not his job to convince me, but I remain unconvinced about him at this level. I need to see more. He's young, so I'm not going to lambast him, but we've got a lot of young bowlers in the pipeline that he's going to have to improve rapidly for me if he's going to cement that position as first choice in the team. Then we've got Anthony Bramble, who I haven't actually seen before. So if you do know who that is, or if you know what his credentials are, should I say, feel free to drop a comment below. I don't know much about him. He's obviously been brought in based on his domestic form, his record as plays for the Guyana domestic team in List A, as well as in the CPL T20s. His record in T20s is not very great. That's the reality. 12 matches, 70 runs, 8. That's an average, top score 27. He's a wicketkeeper. I mean, I hope he can bat as well, because that's what he's there for, I guess. Then we have, well, in the original squad, we had Andre Russell. Now, we know Andre Russell had a lot of issues during the World Cup with his knee. And I said that after the World Cup, for me, he hasn't got an international career. T20 is possible, but if you're only available half the time because of the injuries, I wouldn't want to begrudge anyone, you know, the finances that are available in the other domestic like franchises. T20, go play them, earn your money. You're 31 years old, and I wish you the best. Thanks for the service. But his injury record is very worrying. I can't see how he can prolong his West Indies career much longer. It's possible that if he somehow gets over this, but from what I hear, he's got arthritis in his knee, so these things are going to keep cropping up. It's not a impact injury and it heals and you get better. He's going to have to manage it. So maybe in a T20, if he's fit as he can be in a T20, he can get through. I think he's carrying too much weight as well, which is putting a lot of pressure on his knees. And I guess as a batsman, that it's not a problem. As a bowler, of course, you're putting a lot of stress on your knees. But if he's injured, he's injured. You just need to move on and you need to find someone else. So he's actually been. They did a late fitness test on him, and he was then dropped from the squad because of that. And Jason Mohammed was brought into the squad, another player who has been knocking on the door for a while. He's played for us before. Some would argue that he could have been in the World Cup squad, but I'm happy to see him because he's a good batsman. There was talk about Shane Rutherford, him coming in as a replacement, because he's an all-rounder, medium pace. But I think for me in this squad, there's enough. We've got one, two. Well, I was about to say enough bowlers, but actually, yeah, you got Cottrell, Kemo Paul, O'Shane Thomas, Brathwaite, and Ryan. I don't think you need to bring someone like Rutherford in. Another batsman is fine by me. And finally, Kari Pierre. Now, I heard a lot about Pierre before the World Cup because I was like, we need to get a spinner. We need a spinner because Allen and Nurse ain't that. They're not that. And I heard about Pierre, checked him out, and he's a decent bowler. And I think the fact that he's now in the T20 squad after the World Cup shows that whatever he's done has been noted. He got 17 wickets in his 16 matches. Economy rate just under 7. In T20s, a little bit expensive, not massively. Because what, 7 and over, 140. Now seven's decent. 7's decent. Average of 21. I haven't seen a lot of him to say how effective he is compared to someone like Narayan. I would expect Narayan to be the premier spinner, but he's an inexperienced bowler at this level. Spinners usually take longer to kind of hone their craft. 27 years old, maybe now he's coming into his best, and I guess we'll see. I don't know what the makeup of the team's going to be. That is up to them. You know, I actually don't know what they're going to do. I'm actually. I would give my team, but there's no point really predicting what West Indies are going to do when it comes to selection because they usually are a law unto himself. I will go John Campbell, Evan Lewis as the openers, Shimron Hetmeyer at 3, Nicholas Pooran at 4, Kieran Pollard 5. I mean, I would actually have Pooran as the wicketkeeper batsman as well, so I would then allow Jason Mohammed at 6, Narayan 7, Carlos Brathwaite 8, Cottrell, Thomas, and Paul as the 3 fast bowlers. I think that would be a good side. Whether they do that is another matter, but I think that creates enough balance. You got the 3 fast bowlers in Paul, Cottrell. You got the spinner in Narayan and the all-rounder in Carlos Brathwaite, and I use that term very, very loosely. But in T20s, I guess he is an all-rounder. The likes of Rovman Powell, Pierre, Bramble. I think maybe we'll see how the first two T20s go, and then if someone's not performing or whatever, then you bring them in for the third one. But for me, that would be the first. That would be my first choice. But then, as I said, it's not my decision. Some of those people for me wouldn't even be in the squad. The likes of Brathwaite, for example, Ocean Thomas, I wouldn't have them in the squad anyway. But as it is, yes, we are. It's a Indian tour of the Caribbean, well, United States and the Caribbean. First two T20s, as I said, are in Florida, and then they move onto the Caribbean for the third T20, and then the ODI and Test match series. What am I expecting of West Indies? I just want a competitive game of cricket. That's the truth. I want a competitive game of cricket. I want us to look like we are able to go toe-to-toe with the likes of India. T20 is a format that we have thrived in recent years. Of course, we've won the T20 World Cup twice, the only team to do so. So if we are going to match India at any level of the game, any version of the game, this is it. So I hope that, I pray we can get a win of the series, but a 2-1 loss with fighting performances throughout is something that we can build on. The last T20 series we had after the Test win and the ODI draw against England, the last T20 series, we got progressively worse each game on. And we can't do that. We need to be getting progressively better from game one of the tour, really, right through to to the end of the Test series. But we wait and see. Nonetheless, we rally around the West Indies as per usual. I'll be giving match reviews after each game. Hopefully, I'll be a bit more upbeat than I was during the World Cup and those dire performances. West Indies, you got a lot of making up to do. This is Chris Gale's swan song once, of course, the ODI series start. And the people of the Caribbean are expectant. The promise has been shown in recent years. The World Cup sent it down a few notches, but this is the chance coming back home to the Caribbean to raise those expectation levels once again. That's it from me, guys, with your West Indies versus India series preview. I'll see you soon.